Call tonight's meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mike Hayes.
Here.
Jennifer Watkins.
Present.
Chris Hunt. I see him here. Kit Williams.
Here.
Drew Schultz.
Here.
Angel Ramsey. Here.
Everyone had an opportunity to review the agenda. Any additions or corrections, or do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Do we have to do each individual one for the July 8th, July 15th, and the July 24th? Can we do all three of them as written?
It's all in the consent agenda. What I'm asking you is, do you approve the entire agenda or things to be discussed?
Yes.
Or do we adopt the agenda? I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I didn't know if he was on.
Second.
Second.
By Drew, all in favor? 4-0.
I thought he was still talking, so I was just.
Do we have Chris?
Aye.
Okay.
5-0. Consent agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the consent agenda? There's a lot in there. Any additions, corrections, thing you want to remove for further discussion? Not all. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I can make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Second.
Kit, all in favor?
Aye. Aye. 5.
Next item of business. Anybody for public comment tonight? Anybody have anything they'd like to discuss? Regular business, citizens, residents? Excuse me, shouldn't eat that piece of pizza. Presentations to guest speakers. Here, you're up.
Perfect. All right. Good evening. My name is John Revere. I am an audit manager with the Lloyd Group. Going to go over your 2025 audit report. And unfortunately, you get to see me twice in a month, so I apologize for that. That's unfortunate for you all. So normally it's once a year for most of our clients. So we're going to go over the two documents in here. You've got a bound copy and a stapled copy. We're going to go over the stapled copy first. That's going to be our letter to you as council, as well as management. So first couple of pages here are going to be kind of more boilerplate language of our responsibilities in the audit, the scope and timing of the audit, any risks identified, which is on the top of page 2 there. And those risks that we put across all of our cities, so this is not just unique to Towanda, those significant risks identified are actually for every single city that we audit across the state. So sometimes we have some council that do kind of get asked questions about that, but it's not specific here. It's across the board. The rest of this information, going through the pages 3 and 4, again, note any modifications we had, any difficulties we had. We didn't have any disagreements with management either. Where we spend most of our time when we do these presentations is going to start on page 5. These are going to be our points. These are going to be the recommendations that we make, whether these are going to be statute violations, internal control practices, policies, procedures, the whole 9 yards. And what we always do is we'll take what we covered last year and give an update on those. And then we will look at anything that happened starting in 2025. So first one there is going to be financial statement reporting. So we want to make sure that the financials you have in front of you, they're your financials. We can help prepare them, but somebody needs to have what we would like to see is the skills, knowledge, and experience to be able to read through these, understand them, and basically they'd be able to prepare them themselves. But we have the software to be able to do it, so we do it quickly and more efficiently. But we want somebody that can sign off on them and say, hey, these make sense. These are accurate and true from what we have compared to our financials that we prepare inside of the city there. So we recommended that previously. City administrator did participate in training in 2025, but again, we still want to have somebody with some additional skills, knowledge, and experience. It takes a little time to understand these financial statements over time. So we recommend that. I would see as we get moving down the road, 26, that should fall off as staff gets more in line. So as well as we would recommend any council member or any staff member would want to attend any trainings. We do put on trainings in the fall for CANAG reporting, which is what your financials are in. We'll have more information coming out about that here this probably the next month or so. Bottom one there on page 5 is policies and procedures. So we did know previously that the city had an employee handbook and personnel policies and guidelines manager manual, but the city had not developed written policies and procedures for other important legal, accounting, or security issues. So we're looking at things like an anti-fraud policy. We actually had a city, they didn't have one of these in place, and they actually caught somebody doing time card fraud, but they couldn't prosecute them or fire them because there was nothing that told them they shouldn't do that. So that was kind of an interesting thing. So we do recommend setting up an anti-fraud policy, doing procedures for backup from programs and data files, some of those legal requirements for purchasing procedures, setting up dollar thresholds for bidding, things that can be pre-approved by council ahead of time, some federal funding considerations. A lot of those kind of started coming through, especially after all of the ARPA money came through. Top of page 6, there's a few more recommendations in there. Basically making sure people don't have access, every employee doesn't have access to data that they shouldn't have. Kind of getting that set up there. Long-term debt policy and procedures, journal entry policy and procedures, the whole 9 yards there. So we would recommend some of those. We can give you draft policies from where we get from other cities. We can package those up and send them over just to give you guys as a starting point. That does take a lot of time to develop those from scratch, but we can give you some of the ones that we recommend or have helped develop in the past, if that would be something that would be of interest for the city of Towanda. The second one there on page 6 is segregation of duties. And when we're looking at our audit, we spend a lot of time on internal controls, and segregation of duties is a big one. We don't want to have somebody that can authorize a transaction and work the transaction all the way through. That'd be somebody from, that would put on a purchase order, review the purchase order, and then cut the check would be one. Or on the other side, they're the one opening the mail, they're depositing the money, and then posting it on your financial systems. Hard part is in smaller communities, you may not have enough people to do that. So right now, I know you're down a person, so that could take a little bit more time. But getting somebody set up, or having somebody on council help, or someone else in another department help create those segregation of duties. Because we see that when you don't have segregation of duties, that's when you have the opportunity for fraud. Not saying that's happening here, but we had this happen at a school district 3 years ago now. The person was in charge of the entire payroll process, from looking at time cards to posting time off and doing the actual payroll. And she was working 26 hours in a day. She was not taking her time off. She was changing her pay rate without having anybody having oversight over that. Those are the things that can happen there. So, like I said, not saying that's happening here, but that does create that opportunity. That's why we want to have that segregation. Top of page 7 now. We're going to look at bank reconciliations. This is going to be very similar to that segregation of duties as well, but we do want to have somebody reviewing the bank reconciliation that isn't the person preparing it. So somebody prepares it, somebody else signs off on it, looking for items, making sure it all ties out correctly, looking for checks that maybe are outstanding over 2 years, which will be in that next point there that we'll go over. But we want to make sure that there's a second set of eyes going through those bank reconciliations, because that's an important piece to make sure there's not anything going on that side. As when they're reviewing it, just initialing it and dating it to make sure that it is also done timely, and then somebody knows that actually does happen, not just looking at it and moving on down the road. Second one down there, I kind of mentioned it previously, was the outstanding checks over 2 years. As per KSA 10-815 and 816, you did have outstanding checks over 2 years at the city of Towanda in 2024, as well as 2025. So the statute reads, just can't have them out there. Our recommendation would be, as you're getting close to the end of the year, usually August timeframe, start looking at your checks that are going to approach that 2 years outstanding and start trying to figure out, can you get those reissued with a new date, or do you need to send those to cancel something property? So, and we're looking at this as of 12/31/2025. And so it'd be anything written before 12/31/2020. So that concludes the prior year points. For 2025, we do found a few more items in there. So journal entries, and this is going to be more of a journal entry review. So whoever was making the journal entries wasn't having somebody review them before they're posted into the system. Again, we're going back to stopping that fraud possibility there. Again, not happening here. We're not accusing anyone of here, but we note that if there is a possibility that someone can post an journal entry without it getting reviewed, that's a way that they can cover up where something could be happening. Bottom one there on page 7 is the credit card policy. That we want to note there needs to be a credit card policy in place. That goes back to that other one that on that large information on the policies and procedures back a couple pages ago. But we want to see a credit card policy that notes someone checks out a credit card or is issued a credit card, what they can and can't do with it. We're thinking of things like sales tax getting paid. You're a sales tax exempt entity. They should be paying sales tax when they're swiping the credit card. or what they shouldn't be paying for it. Again, having those policies in place, and then what are the consequences if you don't match the policy is nice to have on there, so they know that, oh, well, didn't know I wasn't supposed to go to the gas station and buy snacks for myself because I needed a break, and what those consequences are. So that's the bottom of page 7. Top of page 8, we noted there was no reconciliations for utilities and utility billing software. And so what that is we want to look to see all of the usage that's been out there, what was billed, to then what was received, and then what was still sitting outstanding. We just wanted, it's basically like similar to a bank reconciliation, but more on that utility billing side, to make sure that what's getting used, what's getting billed, and then what's getting paid reconciles out, and you can see how much is still outstanding in each month. On middle of page 8 there, the expense test, we do a random sample of expenditures, and we noted a few issues as we went through them. I'm not going to go through each one of those, but there's about 5 issues in there. Want to make sure that, we build some policies in place and then following through on those policies and procedures. So a couple of things in there, also dealing with contracts, making sure that you have active and up-to-date contracts. So a review of those is also nice every year, so to make sure that you have active and accurate policy or contract there. Bottom of page 8 is payroll side. So we noted an instance of timesheets hours did not match the hours being paid, and there was some manual adjustments that were being made based on verbal corrections. Anytime you have verbal corrections, we don't want to see those kind of things. We want to see it being made, either written down and signed off on by the employee and somebody else, so that someone's not just changing hours just because they like the person or they don't like the person. So we want to see documentation of that. So, and even in larger entities, we've seen that too. We did a large government entity last year, and they do about $100 million worth of revenue every year, and they still use timesheets based upon a desk calendar. Everyone just writes it down, and then at the end of the month, they take a picture of it, send it to payroll, and payroll processes it based upon that. So we made some big recommendations there. So it's not just small entities, big entities do the same thing. But where the recommendations still stay the same, we want to have some policies and procedures. Page 9, I swear I'm almost done. This is not just going to go on forever. So page 9, we're talking about the library. A couple issues when reviewing that library's activity, about 5 issues there. And we just want to make sure that transactions are being reviewed on a regular basis. We want to have consistency on where things are posted. And then documentation should be maintained for all transactions. There was a couple other things that we noted that some of the balances the beginning balance in the 25 didn't match the ending of 24s, which we would note that probably something was posted in a prior year. And we do want to make sure that those are all posted in that same year. If you've got to void an entry or make an adjustment from a prior year, make sure it happens in the current year that you're in. Don't try to backdate anything. Let's see here. One more before we hit the best practice. We had a cash basis violation. There is a statute 10-1113. Note that you can't have negative cash balances unless it's a federally funded fund there. And you did have a negative cash balance in the water utility fund. So want to make sure those are taken care of. That's done on a monthly basis. It should be at all times, but even while you're wrapping up the month, you do month end, making sure funds are back at 0 or above every single month before you close out. Finally, we did have a best practice point of just looking at your reserve balances. We recommend most funds have a 3 to 6 month cash carryover in there. So there's a small table down at the bottom that has your annual expenditures for 2025. We did kind of split out what it looks like for 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months, and then the end of the year cash balance, as well as what that calculates out to your number of months in reserve. Just to make sure if you don't have money coming in, you're still able to pay your bills, payroll, the whole 9 yards. So we want to see some of those cash reserves built up if you have that opportunity in the future. Finally, page 10 is just a summary. So those are just kind of the matters discussed, as well as both of our partners' numbers in there if you ever have any questions. And with that, I'd stand for any questions on the letter. I know I went over a lot real fast, but we would be happy to stand for any questions you may have on any of those points, especially if they don't make sense or how to move forward with those.
I might note on the water fund cash basis issue, this has actually also occurred in this year. If what I believe happened last year, and I believe it happened again in February or March of this year, we typically get the bill and pay the water due from the prior month, the month after. At the end of the year, when you're calculating encumbrances and trying to make sure everything lines up with the year, even though that bill was paid in January, it was for services incurred in December. And so that happened, I believe, last year. And then the one that I saw this year, the check was entered, again, I think it was February, March. The check was entered in a month that already had a water bill payment to Rural Water 5. And you're talking $20,000, $30,000. And so incurring two payments to the water district in the same month caused that to take place again. And so that was something that I advised staff to make sure that we are checking balances as well as making sure that we're getting things in the month that they should be. So we should be able to, as balances grow and as we watch things through the end of the year, to make sure that we do not end the year with a cash basis violation.
That's a perfect point. As we talk about cash basis, you look at your, ending the year with, $7,000 in the water fund. It's hard to, pay that $20,000 water bill or encumber it without going into cash basis. So building up those reserve balances would be key to help avoid those in the future.
Question, page 5,
Yes, sir.
policies, procedure, you said just ask when you get into training, go to the city manager and have her enroll you or what?
For the financial statement reporting side?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send something out probably in the next month or so. I know we just finished an ad for the league newsletter that comes out with the updates and times for those reporting that we're doing. I don't know of other firms that are still doing report training, but they're all going to be in Galva this year at our owner's building that he put up for just a training center there. So I would assume we'll send out information via our contacts that I would assume your city administrator would send out to the rest of you, say, hey, this is going on down the road. Here's the dates and times, what works for you guys. So
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
No,
Okay, perfect. Let's get to the more fun document. All right, and that's going to be your bound document. This is going to be your financial statements for 2025. First couple pages are your city council, city officers. That's as of 12/31/25. Your table of contents. I normally kind of move through those pretty quick. Top for first page up your table of contents is your independent auditor's report. A couple of notes here. The first three paragraphs, we're going to look at paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. The first one is an adverse opinion on the U.S. generally accepted accounting principles and the unmodified opinion on a regulatory basis of accounting. We do have to give that up for that adverse opinion on generally accepted accounting principles because you do waive GAAP. These financial statements are presented in the regulatory basis of accounting. So we do have to give that adverse opinion. We do give an unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of accounting, which is the highest opinion we can give as accountants. And I apologize from accountants everywhere that that's the best term we could come up with was unmodified for clean bill of health. The rest of the information in here talks about the responsibilities of management, the auditor's responsibilities, some supplemental information, and then there is a paragraph that we did previously audit the city of Towanda for 2024, and some information on there. You can find more information about that audit if you want to go back and read that too on the state's website out there, or I'm sure there's copies here at the city. Page 4 is the statement, what we call statement 1, which is a cash summary. And that notes basically a 30,000-foot view of your financial statements for 2025. It goes in order from the general fund, goes to the special purpose fund, and works its way down. We start with beginning unencumbered cash, receipts, expenditures, ending unencumbered cash, and then we add back in those encumbrances for the ending cash balance there. And like I said, that is a 30,000-foot view. We'll get to about a 5,000-foot view as we get farther down the road here. Page 5 starts your notes to financial statements. This is going to be more of a narrative of how you report via KMAG and a little bit of kind of boilerplate information, but there is some stuff sprinkled in here specifically for the city of Towanda, noting kind of how the budget works, some information about compliance statutes, deposits information, your debts, some information with your defined benefit plan papers, your long-term obligations, some information about payroll and time off and all of those things, any transfers that were made, claims and judgments, and then any capital projects for subsequent events, which is just kind of each of those titles for each of those subsections there. A lot of times I would say this is the last joke I should make is if you can't sleep at night, pull this out, start reading. If you make it all the way through the notes, you should be asleep. If not, let us know. We'll send you some t-shirts or something because you deserve to make it all the way through there. So, yes, sir.
Got a quick question.
Yep.
Library fund.
Yep.
Can you tell me where the administrative offices of 121 North Kansas, Tawanda, Kansas 67543 would be?
I cannot tell you where that is. Is that what notes in there?
Yeah.
Where should it be?
I would assume here. City Hall.
Well,
To my knowledge, we don't have a Kansas Street
you don't have a Kansas Street.
and our zip code 67144.
Guys, I can make that. I get that.
Will that change?
Yep.
Thank you.
It should be City Hall.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, I will get that. I'll make a note of that. I'm not gonna make it on here, but I will get a updated copy back to you for that there. Any other questions on the notes so far? All right, I'm gonna take the awkward silence as we're moving on for now. Then we get into Schedule 1, which is page 11. And what this is here is a note. It basically compares your budget to the actual expenditures for 2025. We'll note that anything on that far right column, if it's negative or 0, then you don't have a budget violation. It looks like the Fire Rescue Fund does have a small budget violation, but there is the KSA 792958. It's not considered a budget violation, and the fund was closed with excess money transferred to the county. So no true budget violation because of that exemption from that statute there. Pages 12 and beyond are our Schedule 2. We do go in order. That's in your Statement 1, and it's kind of that 5,000 foot view of your financial statement for 2025. We do put these in comparative, so you compare what happened in 24, 25, as well as compare it to that 2025 budget. Like I said, it does go in that order of Statement 1, and then all those cash balances should tie back to each of those funds on Statement 1. And that does pretty well wrap up your financials, except for that library board, which is on page 38, and that's what we call a related municipal entity. And that is the money that came in and out of your library fund for 2025. So with that, I stand for any questions you may have. We'll be happy to go over any questions or comments or concerns you have for your 2025 audit.
I guess, so myself, Kit, you were on city council then, we were not at this time, so I guess, is there anything that you saw concerning that, or is that something that we'd have to go through Sarah on, like as far as doing our audit for last year, is there anything that you saw, you're like, we need to figure this out, this needs to change, like, stat? Or is everything?
That would be everything that was in those points. So all of those
Okay.
recommendations are the points there. Probably the biggest one to be considering, especially this time of the year. I know we've already decided your max mill rate for 2027, but that cash balance is one.
Okay.
Just making sure that that's, you're keeping that in mind.
Mhm.
I know it's real hard to, you don't want to put have a bunch of cash on your books, but again, you have to have enough to operate.
Yes.
We got a phone call from one of our new school districts in June that they didn't have enough cash to finish out the year. They didn't have enough to make their final payrolls. So we don't want to see that happen ever. So that would be the one that would be, hey, we need to consider that as you're wrapping up the budget for 2027. The rest of these are just kind of a plan of saying, okay, which one can we attack right now? But there's anything, segregation of duties is a big one. You want to get some of those ones that are more internal controls.
Yeah.
Policy and procedures can come as you come on down the road. If you do a policy review every, couple times a year, and we can get you some of those examples to start working through. But like I said, cash balances and setting up segregation of duties would probably be our top two.
I was just going to ask, what would be the priority in this and time frame for making all of these additions? Because this is a lot,
And that
add it all together.
it's one of those things where it takes quite a bit of time. So like I said, I would probably focus on a couple of them. It's going to be very hard to focus on all 10
Sure.
pages of this document here. But I would make a plan of attack of saying, okay, here's the things we want to
And
focus
I
on.
agree about the internal controls.
And that's, like I said, that's where I would start with them. And then some of those other ones, as you build those internal controls, some of these other ones will start falling off.
Sure.
Cash basis violations, outstanding checks over 2 years. There's also some things where people just don't know what they don't know.
Sure.
So having those recommendations out there are key for that.
Yeah.
But we don't expect all of these to be fixed by the end of 2026 because again, we're in August already, so it's going to take some time to get all of these wrapped up. But that would be something to consider as you move forward. A couple of big items, and then work through them as
Chipping away.
just start chipping away and move on from there.
I like this. Thank you for putting this together because it's very, very educational for
You're welcome.
a new council member.
We appreciate the opportunity to serve you guys and be able to get in front of you and speak through these points. And if there are questions, Sarah or any of you guys can reach out to us. We'd be happy to go over them more in depth if you want. We try to go a little bit laser fast here tonight, just for convenience of everyone here. But we'd be happy to go over those.
Thank you.
So.
That's all I've got, yeah.
What I.
Good.
Sorry, getting to my motion up here. I did not have a resolution. Would this require a resolution for adoption, or is council able to accept and file?
I believe they should just make, I mean, most of the time it's not a resolution, but we just see, hey, somebody makes a motion to accept it. It doesn't be an official resolution.
Anyone else have any questions for John? Your motion to accept the audit report is presented.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the the 2025 annual financial audit as written.
Second? Get, all in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Give this one, I'll get you an updated.
Thank
copy
you.
of the new address on that.
Old business, the SRF water loan preliminary award.
Absolutely. Okay, and I have Sasha here. She's getting to be quite a familiar face as she's assisting us with multiple projects. So she'll kind of fill in the gaps, but background city, this is a little bit of a surprise that I'm presenting this tonight. So a few months ago, we had discussed continued funding efforts toward the water system. And we had said, go ahead and have me fill out some preliminary loan applications for revolving loan funds from the Kansas Water Office to try to work on our water main project. As we worked on that, one of the things that our grant writers advised was that we might be able to get a score boost if we said, at the same time, let's look at our lead service lines. And I was like, this is a preliminary application. We can always walk away. Let's see what happens. So lead service lines and galvanized requiring replacement are not the same as the water mains that we've been looking at, kind of the bigger project that JEO has put together for us. But we're looking at, could there be efficiencies in completing both at the same time? And I'm going to pass out a document. I didn't want to give previews because I wanted to explain it as we do. But Sasha had their team put this together, and I think I have a couple extra copies if anyone else is interested. But what you can see here is the water main project divided into 4 colored chunks, and then lead or galvanized requiring replacement or unknown material lines in yellow dots. And so we said there could be efficiencies to doing both, and combining the project creates a more holistic system. And so, to our surprise, we were really hopeful we'd get a loan for the water system. We did not. But we did receive, the state ended up portioning out the applications. And so Towanda was awarded a loan opportunity for lead service lines. And so that would be, the preliminary award is $2,225,000. And of that, half is forgivable. Another thing the water office does is a subsidized interest rate, so that it's at 60% of market. So this interest rate would be 2.84% as of July. And if you've looked at interest rates recently,
It's
a
very
good interest rate.
What is may I ask a question? What is what are the conditions on the forgivable portion?
That's a good question, and I'm actually going to look to Sasha as our technical expert.
So the conditions on the forgiveness are just that you all comply with EPA and KDG's replacement requirements.
And that's a given.
That's it. So there's no, income levels tied to it. It's
Okay.
just across the board, 50% loan forgiveness on this pot of money that is set aside for lead service line replacement.
Over the life of the loan, or what is the duration of the time that it's forgivable in, or I guess, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay,
So the information that we received from the SRF office is that before you actually draw down and officially borrow the money, there's no expiration date, as
Okay.
it were. Once you accept that offer, then you have, they haven't set a time period in which you
Okay.
must begin. I'm sure
Okay.
there are checks and things like that.
Mhm.
But what I would say is that this is a reimbursement program.
Right.
So you have
I
to
was
pay
reading that,
up, yeah,
yes.
pay upfront,
That was my
and
concern.
then you request a reimbursement
Mhm.
from them. And once that starts to happen, I am confident that there is a period of time, like most loans or bonds, if you think of it,
Sure,
it's not the same as a bond, but if you think about it like that, like they're typically 20 or 30 years. SRF funding may go out further, and I can get that information for Sarah to follow up with you all in terms of, once we start to draw down and it becomes a loan, then what's that repayment period look like?
Sure.
Right? And then I guess the other thing I would point out and will confirm is that in all likelihood, those payments aren't gonna, on the repayment, won't begin until you're done, right?
okay,
Because of the 50% forgiveness, they're gonna have to figure out how much of the total that you were allowed
sure,
did you actually use,
okay,
and then calculate. But we can determine all of those details and share them with you all if you make a decision to pursue this funding.
okay,
So I'll also say we were one of 6 communities in Kansas to receive this. I don't have in front of me, but I had seen kind of the scoring on the funding that we thought we were applying for. And there were some communities that had very high scores, and we were kind of just a little bit below that line on that other opportunity for the system wide. But we were one of 6 communities to receive this. And even though it was a bit of a head scratcher when that information came back, we would recommend proceeding. And so I wanted to share just a little bit about what this pot of funds can do and how it helps us in our overall goals. So first, we know we've got water leak issues, and that, that's part of the goal of the system-wide replacement, but the system-wide or the main replacement doesn't hit everything. And so our hope is that as you're addressing some of the older and least efficient lines in the system, that's a little bit more opportunity to address the water leak and hopefully find some of the areas where we're losing water. And so again, lead, and they call it galvanized requiring replacement. And it's really about how the materials have flowed and which ones may be contaminated with lead. Those are often older and more vulnerable lines within the system. There is a public health and a compliance obligation. And so Sasha's had this on my radar since I got here, and she's like, I'm just trying to let you get acclimated before we go deep. But there are some compliance deadlines that come up late November next year, where we have to begin working through some of the unidentified materials. We have some additional testing thresholds we have to meet. And so this is a true gift right now to say we're going to have funding to walk through that compliance enhancement and the next steps, as opposed to just doing it out of our water system, which we just heard has struggled. So with this particular funding source, I want to be clear to council, this is not just about city side lead contamination, it's also about private side. And so that was something that I want you guys to be able to wrestle with, to say, what is the city's obligation? And so where I presented tonight is looking at a safe, healthy, and compliant system for everybody. Where if a private individual has lead fixtures within their side of the service line or their home, that still is something that long-term we're going to have to account for as a city. We're gonna have to make sure that that gets replaced, whether it's through city dollars or through forcing the homeowner to do so, or through trying to get like a CDBG grant to assist. And we've been walking through CDBG recently. And so my recommendation with the 50% forgiveness is that this is probably one of the best ways to just make sure that our whole system is safe and not contaminated.
Claire,
Mhm.
did you email that form? Because I don't have it.
Which form? No, but I'm glad,
Over,
I am glad to do that for you, Chris.
thanks.
Yeah, I don't have it on this computer in this meeting room, but I will send it after the meeting. Yeah, so we will get that to you. Additionally, we're looking at efficiencies. So as we're digging people's yards or boring, there's more efficiency if we can do system mains and water service lines. And then one of the big things that I wouldn't have put together, our partners at JEO helped with, is they're looking ahead to the next water office grant cycle. And grants are not things that we have to repay. And they said that right now the water office is now requiring a 20% match for grants. And so we have to come up with 20% of whatever we apply for. Well, this loan can double as our match wherever you see points of intersection. And so that's why I wanted to share this map, is you can see all of those yellow dots along the service lines. Those are all possible places where we can get both project efficiency and funding efficiency from this opportunity. Additionally, I just wanted to note that Amy, the grant writer at JEO, did some debriefing after the last grant cycle where we weren't awarded funding. And one of the big things that she was told is it was because we still had an active grant open. And that was the design phase. And so now that we've closed the design phase, the hope is that this next cycle will do better.
And doing this loan or us saying, yep, let's do this won't hurt us in any grant.
No.
They can't say, oh, well, you
No.
have this money for this. We're not going to give you the grant because of that.
Actually, our hope was,
It
and
will
it didn't
help
work
us.
out this
Yeah.
way, but the hope was that we would get the loan funding and then we could turn around and apply for grant funding, and they would then not have to take out any loan funding for any grant that we got. And so
Okay.
that was for the service mains. That's not how it worked out, but there is no harm. And I'm looking at this as how do we build the funding stack for the whole project. You'll also notice the colors on the lines look a little different than what you've seen before. At my request, JEO has broken the project down from kind of 2 project areas to 4. And that's because the funding grants that we were seeing come through were less than what we had been requesting. And so I thought if we could break it into some additional chunks that make sense, we might fare better in grant cycles. We might be able to say, let's try a grant for one, let's bond another, and then let's run others through future grant cycles. And so this is not a strategy we have to take, but we're looking at just maximum flexibility to try to fund this thing in ways that burden the taxpayers and the ratepayers as little as possible. And so tonight, ultimately, it's up to the council to either direct to pursue the application or direct me to notify the water office that we don't want to pursue it. And it's really your choice and your comfort level at this point. If we were to go forward with pursuing the funding, we do have a schedule for hearings and final application. And so I would recommend a special meeting September 30th to allow publication timelines and hearings for this project. We're gonna, one way or the other, we're gonna update that grant application and try again for the service line funding. And as I said, we've kind of broken this into smaller projects in hopes that we'll be more competitive in future grant cycles. And so I am glad to stand for any additional questions.
I'd like to say, I agree that we should get this. I've done half my house. That cost me $1,200. And that was only for half. So this, I can't get that half back, but this is a great bond for me to get the rest of the house done.
And then if you had, whether it's you and your family members or especially small children are particularly susceptible to lead poisoning.
Yeah.
And so if you got lead in your drinking water, that is a health hazard.
This loan, what would it, and this isn't a deal breaker, I'm just wondering, it is a loan and yes, it's 50% forgivable, but what's it gonna cost the city every month as far as loan repayment?
I don't know. That is a good question.
So that would be based on the, term of repayment terms of the years that were included. in
And we
the
have
loan.
up to 20 to 30. Sorry.
Yeah,
for
let me
interrupting.
check.
Just wanted to make
Let
sure.
me check
Okay.
on that, and then the amortization schedule and all the things, but what I can promise you is that we can get that information. And
Okay,
we'll get it to Sarah as quickly as we can.
And I'll get that sent out to
and
you
then
all.
that interest rate, that was it 2.5,
2.89.
2.89, is
Yeah.
that fixed? Or can that
Not really.
fluctuate on us?
But
Yeah.
that's another question that, we'll get an answer to, whether that's fixed or.
Because the last thing I want is them to say, hey, here's your payment, and then 2 years later,
Mhm.
something goes horrible and everyone's interest rate goes up and now we're paying double or what have you.
What I would say in terms of comfort level, if you all choose to have us pursue the loan,
Mhm.
we would have a hearing again September 30th.
Yeah.
That's what I would recommend. And so at that point, we'll have all that information as,
Where
to
we
the
make
best
our
that we can.
final decision. So
Yeah.
just today, you just need us to vote on whether we want to move forward to the next step,
Mhm.
if we're even want to entertain this.
Yes, and so there will be a few points along the way where you can pause, push the brakes.
Mhm.
And also, anyone who has any questions after tonight, I'll keep those routed Sasha's direction. And we'll, that way we can come back, especially to the hearing, with a comprehensive list of answers.
So my concern that I had expressed over here was I was reading through that this evening and it said, am I correct about the upfront portion? What portion of that loan do we have to pay upfront?
You won't have to pay the loan, well, let me think about that so I can say this right. Like, you'll pay the construction costs up front,
Okay.
and then you'll request reimbursement.
And so what does that look like?
A lot of
Do-
federal
how do we-
cycles are monthly or quarterly
that money?
reimbursement. Yeah, so what it's gonna look like is, we spend the money and then we draw down against the
Yes.
loan.
Yes.
For example, I would say the Safe Streets for All that Sasha's working with us on is the same. So I looked at the street reserve to say, do we have enough to cash flow the project where
With
we're gonna
that.
be out the payment first,
Mhm.
then we're gonna draw down that reimbursement and get the money back, except for I think that one was a 20%, 25%. And
Okay.
so same sort of thing, where each month we're gonna prepay and then we're gonna draw down against the loan.
And do we have the finances for that?
We'll have to make sure that we do.
Yes. Okay.
The water sales tax will be a key player in that.
Okay.
So right now, we want to just kind of let that bank and build so that we would have that available.
I mean, clearly I'm for it. We need this. We really do.
Yes.
I'm not trying to bash this because it really is a good option. I'm just trying to express concern about how do we develop given everything else we've got going on.
Yeah,
And I just think
And
it's
by,
prudent to ask the question.
for sure.
and by doing something like this, we might get lucky and find out where the main leak is
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
We might just get lucky and be like, hey, let's start this area, and
Mhm.
we find it and it's like, oh wow, well then that saves us, the money that the town's paying every month for lost water.
Sure. And I think that
So-
would be the hope is, kind of roll the dice and take a wild guess of where we think is most likely. A scenario I could see is where you see the red and the dark blue.
Yep.
What if we said we're going to bond one and we're going to, do the other with a grant, then we've taken out half of where the leak could be. And then all of those service lines as well.
So we're dealing in this program more with service lines.
So this funding would be, yes, sir, Your Honor, this funding would be solely for the replacement of lead service lines. And
We,
if I, go ahead, I'm sorry.
could we have any way that you know of identifying the areas where we are heavy in lead service lines?
Actually, this is going to show all of the lines that Sasha was part of our project a couple years ago. You're going to have the right terminology, but
So we did your inventory
Right.
review. And so, this map that you guys have doesn't indicate the service line material type by address. It just is showing you where those galvanized, lines are in your system. And they're pretty evenly distributed actually, which works out well for your phased approach on the water mains. But what I can tell you, is that you are heavy and galvanized. Although I would add to that, you don't have a huge number. Our estimate, and I'm gonna emphasize that first inventory that we did, it's an estimate. We have some hard data in it. But there are some things that we use, things like your built information, and there are verifications that need to be or that need to happen.
Right.
I believe that that number will come down. It's around 120 right now, total replacements. And the other thing I guess I just want to share with you guys, so we have been tracking this SRF funding for lead service line replacements closely because we're very involved. We're involved in 46 inventories across the state. And this year during the public hearings for that, KDHE shared with the folks that were in attendance that the EPA has given them two pretty strong messages. They're not at this time going to receive any more EPA funding to replace service lines. And that's what funded this bucket of SRF funding. And the second message was that if Kansas doesn't start to get more traction from public water systems, there's the possibility that EPA could take that money back and use it in states where replacement activity is going. So what I can tell you is that I am not aware, and I'm very involved in this lead service line stuff, of any systems that are at replacement yet. So you guys are cutting edge. There are a few other systems that have already secured SRF funding, but I would applaud you for making this consideration because my biggest fear is that if our little places like Tawanda don't hurry, it's gonna be gone. And then we'll be,
And then that cost gets shuffled to,
we're gonna find another way. I mean, I would say that, I should have started with that. I hope that you all know that we're in this with you. And so, although we were not able to secure the SRF funding for the water mains this year, we are beating the bushes for other opportunities. We are already in process to apply for the Kansas Water Office grant. And we will definitely take another run at the SRF bucket for water mains and pieces of the infrastructure like that. And you have enough, you're well aware, in your main replacement needs that we're gonna need multiple funding streams to make all of this work. One thing that I do wanna make sure that you understand is that the main, that's a huge number on your mains, right? And so I understand, the line of thinking that like, we're gonna methodically go after this and it could take 15 or 20 years. But I would point out to you, and I'm not saying that's how long, but I'm, using that as an example. I would point out to you that for the lead service lines, you'll have a 10-year window to replace that, and that clock starts next year. And between now and next November, what Tawanda needs to be working on, because it's required, it's a regulatory requirement, is that baseline inventory that Sarah mentioned, which what we would recommend is that we come in and help you really tighten that up. We need to do more field investigation. We probably need to do some potholing and really dig in to the data and records that you may have in this very building, because we're working with a system right now that found city council minutes from 1923 that actually listed the materials in their system when it started. Wow. So they were able to eliminate that question, which in the inventory, there are two questions that get the folks with galvanized. Was there lead ever upstream? And was the public service line ever lead? Which is kind of the same way of asking the same question, but they're in there. And unless you have a definitive record that you can prove to KDHE and EPA that we know we don't, I mean, it's hard to answer those questions as no, because most communities in Kansas, like Tawanda, started in the late 1800s, 1860s.
and it was all lead.
Well, and the records just are, it's rare. But what I will say is that during the inventory process, We did a lot of work with the staff on what plan sets that you had available in the system, and we were able to figure out a lot from that. But we didn't spend any time digging through city council minutes and other records that the city may have. And so my recommendation would be that you all accept this funding opportunity and we get started as quick as we can. You know, taking into consideration Sarah's responsibilities and her full plate right now, but validating your inventory, getting your baseline inventory ready for next November, and then developing a replacement plan. Will be required to submit a replacement plan to EPA and KDHE that outlines how you're gonna pay for the replacement on both sides. And I would say to you that you are not required to pay for the replacement on the private side. You're not. The EPA is not requiring you to do that. But you will be required to enforce the replacement. So those are decision points that you have. I would encourage you to consider this as an amazing opportunity to just get started. And like to Kit's point, I'm sorry, Councilmember Williams' point, a service line replacement, which is from the meter to the structure. We're involved in several of these replacement programs in other cities, and it's between $5,000 and $8,000. I don't know a whole lot of folks that have $5,000 or $8,000, you know, 5 to 8 laying around to pay for that replacement. So I will just, I mean, it is absolutely your decision. And I recognize and acknowledge the fact that it's also not the city's responsibility. So,
What's JEO's fee basis?
that would depend in large part on what services you guys want. As I mentioned, we're working with several other communities that are actively working on replacement programs. They're not here in Kansas because I don't know of any. We're working in Nebraska, but the city of Lincoln is one of them. So, Your Honor, what would play into that fee would be the variety of services that you want. We can do turnkey, where we do everything, and that's obviously more expensive. And then we can provide you with a list of all of the services that we do provide and associated prices, and you all can make an informed decision on that. But without having a scoping discussion with Sarah, I mean, I didn't come prepared to show you like, here's what we think it's gonna cost, but we can gather that information.
One extra piece, kind of speaking of that, that I did want to highlight in our financial analysis, if you read the agenda report, you'll notice that the compliance number is a little higher than what the original application was for. And that's actually one of those places where, as we reviewed a little bit more, we said, oh, is our staff going to be able to conduct Davis-Bacon wage interviews? Is our staff going to be able to do a few of the compliance services? And from a just technical and time standpoint, the likelihood is that no, we probably can't. And so the recommendation as we apply for the final loan is actually to increase that compliance number by 200,000 to try to get some funds that can cover whether it's JEO, whether it's other professionals in the space to do those things that would be a strain or that are outside of staff abilities. And so that's why that final application motion is 2,425,000 instead of 2,225,000. And again, it's kind of fluid. It's a little strange from outside coming in to say, oh, well, here's a pre-application, final application, but this is within what is recommended.
Yeah, they give us the opportunity to tighten up our numbers. And I would just tack on to what Sarah told you, that estimate from 2 to 4 for the compliance piece, the assistance, and to the point, whomever helps with you. Once we started to really dig into that and think about what is Tawan's position right now from a staff capacity perspective, the Davis-Bacon wage interviews, you have to actually interview staff that work on the projects to make sure that the contracts are compliant with Davis-Bacon wage requirements. And that's a part of federal regulation. the in the field inspections, but then the bigger piece that I would point out is that that reimbursement request process is time intensive and document heavy. And the system that we've developed takes that off your plate. We just, here's your reimbursement request package, and it's been triple and quadruple checked, and it will meet SRF funding requirements as well as any EPA regulatory requirements around replacement.
There's somebody
You guys
coming
need a
in. It
motion
has,
from us.
I'm sorry. I spoke over you, Chris. I'm sorry.
I said you guys just need a motion from us to allow you to move forward, is that right?
I'm sorry.
He just wants to make sure that all we need is a motion
Yeah.
to move forward. I do have one question. If I could.
Absolutely. Happy to
The-
answer any.
The yellow dots. So about this time last year, we were all sent a survey, might have been longer.
It's-
Yeah. It's that, is this from that data from that? Okay.
And we had a pretty good response rate in Towanda. But we didn't get a response from everyone. And as I mentioned, we used, appraiser data on some properties to figure out your build where we were unable to get a response, or perhaps the owner paid or the property is vacant.
Okay.
We used other methodologies to, make an educated determination on what the material type was likely to be. But those are the things that we should tighten up before that baseline inventory. And the last thing about that, and I promise I'm gonna stop talking. That baseline inventory is what KDHE and the EPA will hold you to for replacement. So we need to get that thing as tight as we can and know with beyond a shadow of a doubt, what we're talking about.
Okay.
Well, so what would the term or the term length be on this? Is it, so if we decide to say,
On
hey,
the
let's do,
loan?
yeah,
That's one of those things that I'm gonna follow up with the SRF
Okay.
office
Okay.
first thing. And get that information so that you guys have it well in advance of any hearing or anything like that.
okay.
Yeah.
So what I noted was the term of the loan once repayment begins. How soon does repayment begin? I'm assuming it's not until the project ends and is closed out, but I'll confirm that. And then is that interest rate fixed or is it variable over the term of the loan? Did I miss any questions that you all?
No.
Nope.
No. Preliminary.
How does council want to proceed?
Yep.
Move forward, I need a motion.
I recommend that, we direct the city administrator to proceed with submitting a loan application to the Kansas Water Office Public Water Supply Loan Fund in the amount of $2,425,000 and schedule a special meeting on September 30th, 2026 for purposes of holding a project hearing.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're on to the update for 309 Main Street.
Council, I can kick us off here. Last month, we conducted the dilapidated structure hearing, and council, after quite a bit of conversation and consideration, opted to continue that hearing until this evening. Honestly, we are still working through processes on both sides, both looking at what happens if we need to demo, what does it look like to pursue a grant. And so tonight, we wanted to just do a quick touch base. I believe that Mr. Jones has a guest here to introduce herself as far as part of the loan process. But we wanted to keep this kind of short and sweet tonight and request that council continue that hearing to September 9th when we bring back information about both parts of the process.
Okay, hold on. I'm actually gonna talk here. You wanna continue it again or table it again? But what is the point in tabling it again?
We have been in conversation with Mr. Jones and his team regarding the grant. And at this point, we do not have a complete grant application ready to review and bring back to council. As we look at the timeline on that grant opportunity, really September becomes do or die. At that point, we either need a grant that is ready or we need to say, you know, that's not going to happen in this grant year.
Why,
I don't think we need any more time.
why do we not
I'm
have
sorry.
the information tonight for granted? Why is it not complete?
We have been requesting additional information from Mr. Jones, and we have not been able to receive that information.
So it's nothing to say.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. I don't mean to. I know there's.
Go ahead, Chris.
I don't want to wait any longer. I don't want to table it anymore. We have asked for information. Our city staff does not have time, in my opinion, to continue this, to put more time into this. That's my opinion on it, and I don't want to table it anymore. It's up to everybody. I'm only one vote, but that's my opinion at this time.
Any other opinions, conversation, remarks, comments?
Agree with Councilmember Hunt.
I mean, I think they're here. I think we at least let them say their piece. I mean, we asked them to come down. Wouldn't be right to say, hey, we need you to come down to the meeting we're going to talk about your building, and then just not give them a reason to, or a chance to.
We've done that for 2 years.
I get it. I understand, but you know, I think
If the
it's
information
still.
has been requested and has not came across again, I don't
Chris,
want to table and I don't want to take.
I understand what you're saying, but it's still a right thing to do as a city council to hear them out. If we're going to expect them to be here, at least hear them out. Nothing says it. What they say, we have to say, okay, yeah, you're right, and go the other way. But
Where's the information at? When was the information requested and how long have we waited on it?
once again, I'm one vote as well. But they're here. I don't think there's a problem listening to their reasoning and listening to them one more time. But it's just me.
We were waiting for you guys actually to let us know the day that you needed the info by, because the engineer already had the structural numbers. I was gonna put it on the performance, and you guys told us by email that we should wait until September 9 to present this information. It's on the emails. It has been a bunch of exchange.
Who told you that we needed to wait till September 9th for that information?
It came from city staff.
When we were not getting, I can recap real quick for anyone tuning in online as well as council. So we had discussed quite a bit about phase one, which is where the city would be ultimately the grantee of the state. Mr. Jones would be presenting would need to provide 25% of as a local match. And then we had discussed at our last meeting about the city's comfort level or lack thereof of being the grantee without some sort of financial security. So we were discussing escrow conditions for phase one. We've also discussed the fact that phase two right now is kind of an open and unnamed number. The proposal is that phase two would be determined by tenant finishes, but at this point in time, there is not a tenant lined up. And so right now, phase two, we don't know if we're talking 100,000, $250,000. That number is important because we need to see the funding stack, how much Mr. Jones has on hand versus what his financing terms are for any loans borrowed. And that is important because we have a 5-year compliance period. The building must be occupied by a qualifying business within a year of completion and needs to be compliant for 5 years after that. And so we need to build a 5-year pro forma, is what they call it in the industry, that shows that this project is going to succeed and monetize for those next 5 years. And so right at the moment, we don't have the pro forma and we don't have the information about phase two that we need. We have requested this many times. We've gone round and round. And as we got close to this meeting date and our deadlines, we did recommend that we bring it September 9th because it was apparent we weren't going to have time to work through all the details in time to present to council.
So you sent that email saying, hey, yeah, bring it September 9th because since May, I believe it's since May, we've been asking for all this information and we haven't gotten anything.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I keep asking if there any more information, and everybody seems to say, "Can you agree with me, Roberto?" that you have all the information on our side. And we're waiting on you for the balance of, for the application. That's how I received everything. That's what I'm waiting, I'm waiting on the application on your side to, because we fulfilled everything you asked.
You provided bank statement. I know that that was something that was requested early on to make sure that his finances were in place for his role to play. I've provided a market analysis, and I can also provide letter of intent for offers for tenants inquiring for the spaces. So we need to have that by September 9th for tenants inquiring. The property in place, I will tell you, I've had quite a bit of interest in because it's an open 5,000 square foot. Whereas people that, have come in and put offers in on the other two buildings just right there on the corner, they're 1,600, they're 2,000. So the interest has been a dance company that needs open square footage. Kansas Forest personnel needs it for training spaces. So there is interest in the larger square footage if we can get, if you need letter of intent for offers, but on that, we do need a plan
Can you
of
turn me
action
so I can
for
see
the
who's
deadline.
talking, please?
Sorry.
And so the gold standard for a project like this is really that they would have a tenant pre-lined up, and we would then be able to fill in all the numbers around tenant finishes and that 5-year pro forma. That would be what would fly best with the Kansas Department of Commerce in terms of the application. What we're being asked to sign off on right now is a lot of unknown with up to about 14 mils of city taxpayer funding on the line if the project fails.
So, all right, hold on. Wait, I see people raising their hand and people sitting down talking, but are we giving them the opportunity to talk, or are we tabling this, or are we just moving forward with this? Because I mean, I'm online, and I can't see everybody. So, what are we doing here? Are we giving them the time to talk? Is that what
We have been, yeah.
So, let's have them stand at the podium and do it right.
Okay, so I guess my thing is my question is you keep talking about a grant. Who's doing the grant, writing the grant for them? Are they doing that? Or is that something the city's doing for them? Who's on the line for that?
Stephanie March with South Central Kansas Economic Development District is the grant writer.
Okay.
And so she has written the grant to date on their behalf. Ultimately, the city is the grant applicant on behalf of Mr. Jones or
But
Mr.
we
Jones
haven't
and his
submitted
project.
Might I say, this is a resource that he expressed and put interest into. This wasn't something that the city took initiative.
If somebody's talking,
Let's
please stand
back
up.
up. Somebody wants to talk, go to the podium, please.
Okay, so I guess my question is what's the delay? Why hasn't that grant been submitted? Because they've been telling us they want to do that since, is that the April, May time as well?
Yeah.
Is that when it came around as, hey, we want to do this grant? And we were like, okay, wonderful, but here it is months later, and nothing's moved forward with that grant as far as application. So what's the holdup?
So the majority of the application, and to honor Chris, this is Sarah, City Administrator. We have reviewed the application and we feel that there are some significant material deficiencies in that application. And so the city has been asking for those deficiencies to be remedied before we are ready to submit.
And have they been remedied?
No, they have not.
They asked you guys for certain things. Have we gotten those things?
Yes. I'm Roberto. We have been exchanging many emails, and I think the disconnect was where Stephanie, the grant writer, went on vacation, and Sarah. Everything was requested from Barry. It was sent before they went on vacation. Now, that's one thing. The second thing is the grant. The money for the grant is just for the root system replacement. That's it. That's the only amount of money that you guys are responsible for. Phase 2 is a condition of the grant to be successful, and that is going to be used with Mr. Jones' own funds.
Okay, so if he's got his own funds to do stuff, why hasn't other work been done?
Because he already spent a lot of money and people took advantage of it.
I guess that's part of it when you own property. You've got to be able to work on it, but you said they went on vacation, right?
Mhm.
They told you what they needed from you before they went on vacation, right?
We sent it before they went
Well,
on vacation.
Well,
The deadline was June 6th.
Okay. June 6th and it's August 12th, And we still haven't gotten everything that we asked of you, correct?
Everything that it was asked for them before going on vacation, it was submitted to them. And there is acknowledgement
Is
of,
that correct? We've gotten everything that we asked
is there
them?
acknowledgement for that phase one?
Because he's saying that he submitted everything, you're saying that we haven't gotten everything. I'm not calling you a liar, I'm not calling you a liar, but we're trying to figure this out, because if they have been doing what they need to be doing, we can't sit here and say, nope, we're gonna vote the other way if they have been, but if they haven't,
We do not have the financials for phase two, including any potential commercial loan, private loan amounts.
correct.
And we
Correct.
do not have what we need to fill in the pro forma to give us a comfort level that this is going to be a project that will succeed. And so at this point in time,
I get that, but she's saying that we don't have what we asked for.
He's talking about what Stephanie's. She's talking about what the city needs.
Correct, but he said that him or her and Stephanie both sent him stuff before they both went on vacation, and she's saying we haven't received it. He's saying we have.
We, Stephanie, Sarah, Lisa, Rob, Perry, now Joanna, and myself are in those emails. It's like 6, 7 people in those emails.
I think if they have sent everything that they need to send, if they've done everything up to this point that we've been asking them to do, we can't just say, nope, screw it, we're done with this.
We have meetings.
But if they, hold on, but if they haven't, if we haven't gotten everything to the city that we've requested from them, then I'm on Chris's side on that. Yeah, let's move forward. But if they've done everything that we've asked them to, and then now we're just like, well, we're not happy with it. Well, it doesn't matter if you're happy with it or not. If we ask them to do it,
It has been so dragging some that we are concerned that by the time if they or you guys are satisfied with all the requirements, the fund is gonna be depleted. That's how bad we're thinking that is the delay on deadlines and everything.
well, this has been dragging on for 2 years, so you can't sit here and put this on us. Please do not. You cannot put this on us.
Okay, hold on. There's been plenty of times that we've asked for dates, we've asked for this, and they have not been met. You, sir, you said, I'll have a steak here for you if I don't get it done by this date. We're 8 months past that date. At least. Okay, I'm sorry, but, and I hear what you're saying, and ma'am, I don't know who you are that's sitting down and you have a performa and things of that nature. There's 2 other buildings over he owns that have been up for rent the entire time, and I haven't seen anything with it. The number that you guys brought us on this, business plan, I don't believe it. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. Maybe I'm not in the right to say that, but I don't believe those numbers. Not in Tawana. In El Dorado, maybe. Not in Tawana. Maybe in Wichita.
There was an updated business plan because the previous one, yeah, you are right. It was not accurate on this area.
Do we have it? Has it been submitted?
It was sent, yeah.
Lisa and I do have the updated business plan.
Yeah.
It is still, I will tell council, I had a call with a representative from Kansas Department of Commerce who is over this program and its applications to check and see, am I asking for more than I should be? And in that call, we reviewed the specific things that I am still requesting. And the program manager on the state side said, yes, those are the same things that I would consider to be weaknesses. And so we do have the updated business plan. It is still not specific in terms of tenant. It doesn't provide enough information about tenant specific finishes to have that phase 2 financial piece put together. And while the city would be on the hook for a failure in phase 1, if the pieces aren't together for phase 2 and then the end business use to succeed, the city is on the hook as the grantee.
I don't like that at all.
No.
It's taking this long. I don't want to put our necks on the line.
I have a motion to either extend it till September the 9th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here, turn Chris here so he can see.
Chris
it here.
Brown's right. Take a look. What's staff's recommendation at this point?
Staff recommendation is to continue to September 9th.
So how many continuations will that be?
Say that again,
Um,
Chris. Couldn't hear you.
How many continuations would that be?
The dilapidation hearing was actually last month in July, so that would only be 2 in terms of continuing the dilapidation hearing. We have been discussing the grant, I believe, since about March, if that sounds correct. And we have stalled out the last couple of months.
And we've been doing.
But I'm gonna stand where I stand. I don't wanna continue it again.
Roger's.
I'm one vote, but that's my vote.
And Chris, Rob is raising his hand as well, so I'm going to turn you.
I can,
He's not at the podium, so.
I think at least partially the recommendation for the continuation is you don't lose anything. It doesn't cost you anything. The dilapidation process is still in process too, as one of the parallel tracks. So as such, you're not limiting anything by continuing to September 9 as far as a basis for the recommendation.
okay. Okay, very good, thank you, Rob. I understand what you're saying. I also believe that we continue to do this and we continue to say, well, it doesn't cost anything, it doesn't this, it doesn't that. But it just keeps kicking this can down the road. And maybe that's what we want to do. Maybe that's okay with everybody. But there has to be a firm date. And if that's September 9th, okay, cool. But I don't think it goes past September 9th. And if we're gonna do something, there has to be a hard date. That's my opinion on it. And maybe that's not possible, but that's my opinion on it.
Thoughts, motion? We can
Rob,
keep this
is that-
up.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Or I don't know if it's a question, but a month ago, Chris, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, I got it.
A month ago, the sentiment that I received from the council was that basically the city was not interested in proceeding as the applicant for the grant unless there was going to be an escrow agreement as part of it.
Agreed, yes.
The property owner has advised in no uncertain terms that they're not interested in an escrow agreement. What I got from the city a month ago was that pretty much, I'm not sure why we need to proceed any further.
Yeah.
My little piece of that was this, to advise you of that. So I guess with that information, I'll let somebody contradict me, but I don't. Someone's come to.
I see it.
I guarantee you, I'm not gonna hold the city responsible for the grant if it fails. I'm gonna be responsible. I'll do about anything, but I just don't see doing escrow is, there's other ways of doing this without going through an escrow. I have the money to support that. And I can give you all kinds of proof of that, but I just don't wanna tell you 140,000 in escrow, just be sitting, not gaining any interest or anything like that. So I put a lot of money investment in, and I want to see this town grow for everybody, me, you, everybody, because it's been dead for so long. And I understand. And there's been a lot of failure over there, but if we're going in the right direction, I got the right people involved. So,
I think Chris had a question or statement.
sure, go ahead.
Correct. Sir, I've heard your guarantee for 2 years. I've heard your guarantee on many, many occasions. And you're guaranteeing me again. But yet we've still not seen the first guarantees that we're told. So as far as an escrow and things of that nature that we're asking for, there's a reason we're asking for that. And it's because the guarantees that we've been told have not been followed through up to this point. The most that's been done as of right now is an inspection. The boards were finally removed after how many ever months, and some concrete was poured. Is that correct? In essence, that's all that's been done. Is that right?
Everything's done as far as the north wall. And then inspected. It's been inspected.
But that took almost
So in
2 years.
Yeah.
in 2 years,
It ain't
you
gonna
got
take
3
you
things
years.
done.
That wasn't 2 years.
18 months. I mean,
From the time the wall fell, yes.
so I guess how long have you owned that building? The building in question, how long have you owned it?
I owned it several years.
Well, several years is like 3. So
It was that way. It was,
are we talking
poor
5
shape.
years, 10
it
years?
was in poor shape when I took it.
So when you bought it in poor shape, my question is you're sitting here saying you care about the town, you want to see the town succeed, all that. Now you haven't started putting money into it until damage happened to it, and now it's to the point where it is. If you've owned it for all those years, why didn't you put that money into it 5 years ago when you owned it and tried to build it up then?
Well,
Now it's only coming to it because it's come to the forefront of what's going on. So why wasn't it an issue 5 years ago and it is now?
Moving forward. I mean,
I think,
that was a different time frame.
I think one of the concerns, Barry, as far as guarantee of the funds, is that part of the 18 months, whatever it is, process, was put off because of your health issues. So the last thing I want to see is something you drop over, and all the properties wind up in an estate battle somewhere, and we're sitting here trying to figure out how we're going to pay the $140,000.
Yeah.
To cover the loan, grant, whatever it is, it's going to be in default. That's a concern.
Right.
Because I, for one, am not gonna vote to put that on the city at all.
It's almost a whole year of our new 1.5% tax.
Yeah.
Okay,
Chris, you ready?
what's
I say Chris is the first one that came up about this. Chris, would you want to make the motion on this one?
And we,
Still talk.
is it put some kind of lien on the property or something like that? Is that what was it?
Are you looking at me? Oh, I think that the council was very clear with regard to the contingency that they were going to require as part of this deal was the funds in escrow. I think you've been equally clear that you're not interested in that. I think that you've requested alternative options. I think the council is not entertaining any of those options. Therefore, I think you've answered your own question.
I didn't say I totally objected to it. I'd take a look at it.
Hold on. Take a look at what?
Yes.
Okay, hang on a second. Just to be clear, last month, July, I believe,
Yes, sir.
you said you were okay with it. Hang on.
No, I didn't say.
Sir, I'm very, very good at interpreting the English language.
Right.
Okay. One might even say I'm an expert at it. What you communicated was that you're okay. The council said, okay, good, we can proceed. Now via email, it was communicated to me is that no, you said that you would entertain it.
This is.
Hang on a second. You said you'd entertain it. I said tonight, hey, it sounds like maybe the applicant, excuse me, is not interested in the escrow agreement. I gave you the opportunity to contradict what I understood your email to me. You didn't.
Yes.
You hold on a second. Even to the point of 120 seconds ago, you're asking about a lien. I've very clearly explained the council has communicated the escrow is a deal breaker. Okay? And you're not interested in that. You had the opportunity before and now to make that clear. You failed to make that clear. I have an obligation to advise the council of what I think is your position. Has your position changed in the last 15 seconds?
Depends on how the escrow reads.
Okay, here's your problem. You've got a depends word in there that we're not interested in.
No. I've got to protect also myself.
I understand.
Escrow goes.
I understand completely.
How the escrow reads.
I understand completely.
So that's
and I guess my point to what you're saying is this, is that, and I think to Councilman Hunt's position maybe is where this ties into. That's fine if you wanted to talk about some of those details and so forth, but we've literally wasted the last month that could be communicated. And instead what I got was, it's almost illegal, quote unquote. Asking you for escrow funds is quote almost illegal, unquote. That's what your team told me.
Yes. You know better than I do.
I don't. Whoever was typing on your behalf apparently is the expert.
And that was just comment made.
And I guess that's maybe where the underlying issue here is that I think maybe perhaps the governing body is tired of just comments and feels like we're just running insane with regard to it. And that's where this is coming from. Again, I would have been super happy in the last 30 days because I thought you were okay with an escrow. And then all of a sudden that communication changed. And so if in the last 30 days we wanted to look at terms of the escrow agreement, I completely would have done that. However, that's not the communication I got from you, number one. And number two, I'm absolutely not going to bill this client of mine extra dollars for something that's not agreeable to as far as putting that stuff together. Why would you expect me otherwise?
Well, my suggestion is you type up the escrow agreement and I'll either approve it or I won't.
That's very Yoda-esque. Got it.
Okay?
They have not asked me to do that because what I'm advising them is your communications are you're not interested in escrow. And now you're only interested in the last 10 seconds if it's got language that you approve of.
I was looking at, well, I'm looking at other ways.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand completely. I just feel like that treading water strategy is not what they're about listening to my counsel right now.
Well, from what I understand, according to Roberto and everybody, I fed all the information. I was kind of waiting on the city to reply on what we want to get this application processed.
Understood. That's a separate issue. I think that the council and Roberto and you all have potentially different definitions of the word everything and all, but that's a separate issue. To me, that's my little piece, which is the escrow was a deal breaker. So you weren't interested in it. And so therefore we don't have a deal. Now, with that being said, I get that city staff is making the recommendation that we are, and I've explained why, because basically the city doesn't lose anything by still tabling this. The reason for that is, is the dilapidation process that's running parallel and has been on a parallel track from the beginning is not yet completed either. Okay, the other update, I'm sorry. We met with JEO. Lo and behold, the way that it's requested that we consider doing it's going to be the way that we're going to do it. Get a structural engineer, get demo plans, bid the plans, etc. That's not ready. So therefore, the recommendation as far as tabling to September 9 is based upon the fact that it doesn't cost you anything. Mm-hmm. However, with that being said, I have an obligation to advise you that now at this point, I'm not sure whether an escrow agreement is agreeable or not. If you made me be transparent with you, which is my job, I would say you'd be wasting your time with any kind of proposed escrow agreement based upon the communication that I'm receiving tonight.
That is clear from this camp right here.
Chris isn't there.
I think he's just off screen.
Oh, okay.
I'm there.
He's here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
We can beat this thing to death on.
Yeah.
You wanna
Chris,
You want to kick
do
it
you
down the
wanna-
road, or do you want to move forward? That's the motion.
Chris, what do you want to make the motion since you're the one that went in on this first?
Yeah, yes. I gotta think what the motion is and I just don't see anything happening between now and the 9th. I'm sorry. I don't see it. And I don't want to waste our city staff's time anymore. So I'll make a motion that we just follow the dilapidation plan. And not have the city incur any debt or spend any time on the application any further.
Second.
Hold on. Time's done.
Oh, well,
I'm just
I'm
trying
looking
to,
at
Chris,
Rob's
if you don't, mind, I'm
face.
just trying to, I'm trying to understand what your goal is with your motion. And so I'm not quite sure I understood your motion.
I don't want to push out till the 9th. I would like to make a motion to stop these proceedings and move further with the dilapidation plan. Or the dilapidation, what was that called, hearing?
Okay, so let me stop you. And I'm going to recommend that you separate them. And by that, I mean this. Am I hearing you say that you want to discontinue the application process for the grant that's good?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, then I would recommend you make that motion number 1.
Okay. So I make a recommendation to stop the application for SCED on behalf of the city staff.
Second. Second by Kip. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote.
And Chris, I don't think we need a motion to continue on the dilapidation process. That's continuing.
It's already in
Yeah, right.
dilapidation.
It's
Okay.
already in the works,
Okay.
so.
All right. Thank you.
Let's move along to the next agenda item. Lisa, I think you have about 3 things you want to discuss. I said, I think you have about 3 things you want to discuss.
Yes, I do. You have, if I may, I had prepared this, and if you want to review it, if maybe it'll be something we can use at the next meeting, or have you. Yes.
I don't need to review this tonight. Is that what you're telling me? Or you're telling me I do need to review it tonight?
Review it. please.
Oh, okay.
Okay, first thing you have in front of you is the ordinance regulating the traffic. We annually update this. It'll be ordinance 735. I apologize, your copies are not numbered.
Hey, there's a
The
million
standard traffic
pages on this
ordinance that
thing.
we go into
Is
back.
it in this or in?
Pinch?
Yeah.
I have fat fingers, but my pinch is bigger than yours.
It should be within your council packet under new business.
Yeah,
Where's the
problem
back?
is, this thing is. Okay, nope.
If you work from the back, the very last
There you
thing,
go.
the second
There you
last
go.
thing is the
New
the
business.
proposed contract with Mr. Lasher. Just on top of that is your STO, UPOX.
The standard traffic ordinance,
Yep,
isn't it what
yep,
we're
yep.
on?
Yeah, this is,
Yeah.
that's,
This is just a procedural thing that we do
So
after you're adopting it.
Every year.
I've added the same omissions and
Nothing's changed.
nothing.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
I don't even know what we're,
You're not there yet? I thought you
I
were there.
just got there. You guys are talking, I couldn't hear. I don't know, nothing's changed in this ordinance?
No, it's just a standard traffic
Just
ordinance we adopted
Okay.
at the state. puts out.
Real quick, you want the 10-cent tour?
Sure.
STO, standard traffic ordinance?
Yeah.
Long story short, the municipalities have, instead of using state statutes necessarily for their traffic ordinances.
Yeah.
They adopted one big, I say big, but it's a small book, you call it the STO book.
Mhm.
And it basically mirrors state statutes and 99% of it. But it's basically the enforcement of laws for standard traffic ordinances that the city falls in. So instead of passing, whenever something might change or get adjusted, et cetera, instead of having to amend 10 different things in your code, you just adopt the book and you
Okay.
re-adopt the book every year.
Okay.
We've done this 100 times. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he's a rookie.
yeah.
Apologize.
Me too.
The new guy.
Me too.
Okay, go ahead. Can I get a motion to adopt ordinance 735?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 735, adopting the standard traffic ordinance for Kansas City's the 53rd edition.
Second,
Right here.
Drew. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's move along to I'm assuming the next one's 736.
The next one, 736, the uniform solely defense code for Kansas.
Correct.
And it's the same.
This
So
is,
Drew, this is the same thing except with misdemeanors instead of traffic infractions.
yeah.
That's the same concept.
It's the twin sister for criminal.
She's an evil twin sister, isn't she?
Can I get a motion?
Go ahead, Jenny. You got it going.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 736, adopting the Uniform Public Offense Code for Kansas City's 42nd edition.
Second? Drew, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
The third item is ordinance number 737, amending our Towanda City Code, Chapter 3 beverages. It was not in alignment with state statutes, and this brings it
Into alignment.
And you
Real life,
updated it
yes.
to make it.
It has to do with, licensing employees under the age of 21, but 18 or older, being able to sell, alcoholic beverages at retail.
Cereal malt beverages.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Beverages. I'm hurrying too fast here.
I have a question.
Okay.
There's a line on this that I have a question on.
Certainly.
No license shall employ any person who has been judged guilty of a felony. Now, I have a question with that. Is that state or is that Towanda?
State.
That
That is state.
statute.
Yes.
It
Yep.
is.
So any place that serves
We just-
alcohol
Pretty much
sells
state.
malt beverage cannot employ anybody who's been convicted of a
And we,
felony.
all of our liquor laws are based on state statute.
Okay. The question also is, if the person does have a felony, he's working in the kitchen, has nothing to do with the beer. Yeah. See what I'm saying?
I understand.
I had that.
But if that entity, that business does that, does that come back on the town? It comes back on them?
No, yeah.
So,
Back on the-
so this is us saying, hey, don't do it. But if a business entity does it, the state's gonna come in
Just
and
like
say
somebody
something.
selling beer to a kid under 21.
Yeah.
Okay, am I good to make a
What the
motion?
problem was,
I
we've
think
got
so.
two places here in town, sell cereal malt beverage. They got a lot of college kids working. State statute says 18, our old ordinance is 21. You have a 19-year-old kid that's gotta call somebody from another area of the store to come hand somebody their beer, so. And it's perfectly legal by state statute. We govern everything else with alcohol and cereal malt beverage by state law and state statute, so. That's the reasoning behind it.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I will make a motion to adopt ordinance 737, amending Towanda City Code, Chapter 3 Beverages, Article 2, Section 3-213K to conform with KSA 41-2704.
Second, please.
Second.
Drew or Kit?
I got
All in
Kit.
favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Okay.
Okay, we
Okay.
have two more items on tonight's agenda. One involves council priorities for the city administrator.
I don't have an objection. to
Actually,
that.
the next one we got is job descriptions for hiring, and we'll
I'm
make it real
sorry.
quick. Council, those are supplemental to your packet. I got those completed on Monday, and so they were not in the email packet.
Oh.
They are loose papers, that were with your stacks. Basically, we have 2 vacancies currently at City of Towanda. Council is responsible for approving job descriptions in the administrative form of government. And so before we post these job descriptions for hiring, I wanted to bring them back to council for approval. You've seen me tweak job descriptions a couple times so far. First, to kind of create job descriptions that were truly descriptive of the tasks performed. But as we're looking at hiring as opposed to just managing, I wanted to tweak again and have the job descriptions really reflect not just the tasks, but the talents, the type of person who's going to succeed in the role. And so you have job descriptions for the deputy city clerk, utility billing clerk role. And then actually at the request of our public works crew, we are recommending posting the vacancy in that crew as a part-time. The thought there is they've got a good team forming up. They are comfortable with the workload. They would benefit from one more person to flex in and out. And they feel like some of the savings between a full-time and a part-time could go toward much needed equipment that can help them do their jobs. And so our recommendation is to approve the job descriptions as presented. And if that passes, then I will post them tomorrow so we can begin our hiring processes.
Question.
Make a motion to.
Hang on, Chris.
Huh?
He started making the motion, you have a question. Hang on, Chris, Mayor has a question.
Quick question. We're gonna hold to, you're looking for a temp possibly for the building. We're going to require the same standards and background as we do for the full-time position. Or are we just getting somebody in to help do the billing and filing?
So we do have a temp role posted for the office, and the idea is that that could come in and give us more time in the hiring process. That would be somebody who is handling customer resources, city resources. And so actually one of my hesitations has been, do we need, like, what is the level of fidelity that we need from that person? Do they need a background screen? I would assume yes. Do they need the fidelity bond? That's for a temp. Obviously, our permanent hire will. So
One thing I would like to see on here for deputy clerk, utility clerk is something about customer service. It doesn't say anything on here about that. Does it, or did I
second
miss it?
bullet point on the kind of that first section, enjoys providing top-notch service to resolve customer concerns, answer questions, and provide information about the city and its services. And then that
Okay,
next bullet
I'm-
point has a knack for hometown hospitality and creating spaces where people feel welcomed and cared about.
I withdraw my statement. I withdraw, Your Honor. There's so much on here. I'm like, what are we doing?
I know. Yes, that,
I withdraw that last
those are
statement, Your Honor.
critical. And to dig in that a little deeper, to me, this position, there are no compromises. It must be somebody who is fantastic at customer service and who is very detail oriented for the financial piece.
Yep.
We cannot really compromise either piece of that within the limited staffing we have.
I guess the only question I have is if we approve this or when we approve these, what's the point of hiring a temp at that point? I mean, you should be looking for the permanent person or the closest to permanent person. I mean, in my opinion, we're a little far out from where we should be at this point. And I understand short staffed, I get it, but hiring would make you not short staffed. So what's the point in hiring a temporary person? Or are you thinking a temp person could be your next full-time person? And if so, why are we not just making them a full-time person?
It's a good question, and truly the person who becomes the temp could also test the role and then move into the full-time role. The idea when council first recommended a temp was to get some office assistance. I have, I think, 5 or 6 applicants that I need to review, and honestly, it stalled out just on my capacity. I haven't even had the capacity to review applicants, schedule interviews. So if council would rather withdraw the temp and just make the full-time hire, it's an option, but I don't want to rush a hiring process for a position that's critical. That's where that temp could still be a stopgap.
I'm thinking the opposite. So in the last 16 days, not including weekends, I've hired 14 people, 13 people. Yeah, they were all full-time positions. They were all everything that you're looking for now. I've hired 13 people in that time. And I'm sure that Jen can say the same. They've hired plenty. So in my opinion, a temp agency is a Band-Aid at this point. If we were going to do a temp agency, it should have happened, bam, done. It hired, as soon as you found somebody. So now we're past the temp agency and it's time to, I agree, without a better way, to make it a priority.
I agree.
I agree.
Like I said, we're 3 or 4 weeks into this and we haven't even had a temp agency yet. So I understand while I understand you're busy, I get it, I promise. I'm in Indiana and I've been in 43 hours of meetings in the last 3 days. So I understand being busy. I also understand where my priorities lay and I want to know that that's our priority as well. Yeah, I see you, Drew.
Good thing there's not a camera on the back of that computer too.
I see.
Not me.
I see from the window. I'll make a motion to approve the 2 job descriptions, or do we need to separate them?
No, I think they can both go at once.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve both job descriptions as written.
Second,
Jinx.
Jenny. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote.
Aye.
So do I hear council's directive to discontinue the temp process and proceed with hiring the full-time?
Yes.
I would,
Yep.
at this point.
We need to get somebody in here and get them on the ground running. We got to get somebody in here.
Mhm. And I will say the benefit to the delay in hiring the temp, honestly, it's a pretty topsy-turvy experience to, suddenly be taking on two jobs and learning all the details. Once we get somebody in, I have now walked through the process to the level that I am comfortable helping to orient that person so it will be a much softer onboarding.
What's your timeline in, you said you have 5 or whatever, so what's your timeline in hiring, or what's your timeline in interviews?
Some of that will be determined by the panel that we put together. I'm assuming for especially the office staff that will want to look at a panel interview. And just my thought would be typically post for about 3 weeks to get a qualified candidate pool. Try to review, set up those panel interviews pretty quickly after that. At that point, we need to run the background checks. We need to do the fidelity bonds, make sure that that candidate clears all hurdles, and then get them in as quickly as possible. So we're probably looking 6 to 8 weeks realistically.
Mhm. We need to get somebody, because the longer that you don't have somebody there means the longer that you're having to help take care of those things, which means what you were hired for isn't getting done to the best of ability. And it's already gonna take you time to hire somebody and then get them in here, and it makes no sense to get a temp agency and then let that person, no, I'm done here, and then we're getting another one. Let's get somebody in here, let's get them trained, let's get them going. That way you can get back to what you're supposed to be doing. Great.
Okay. Okay, next item, council priorities. Speaking of what I'm supposed to be doing. And I wanted to introduce a guest, even though he's not till the next agenda item, but Ty Lasher popped in here. He's actually coming hot from another council meeting. So we're going to talk about what some of his support could be next. But as we talk through strategic priorities, and Ty wasn't here for our audit presentation, but it's funny how these council meetings develop themes. And so some of what I'm hoping that Ty can assist with is advancing what I'm going to outline here. And so yes, I've got a question already.
Can we motion to table this?
The priorities?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll motion to table council priorities.
Second.
Well, if you just motion to table it, then what do you want to table it till?
Chris, when are you gonna be back?
I'll be back tomorrow, and then I'm gone,
Okay.
uh,
Will you be here the 9th though?
the 9th, is that what you said?
Of September. The September meeting, will you be here for it?
Gee, that's a long ways out.
You might be sick that day.
Well, put your shoes on, start
Yes,
walking.
It's a Wednesday.
I can be there that day.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
So that all of us are present.
Yeah. Okay.
So you need a second? Okay.
Second.
Second.
Get second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Okay.
Yep.
So we did just have 2 items left, the way that worked out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to forward you a few slides. And if anyone's read the agenda report, they got the preview of next month. Okay. So last item in open session, I've presented a contract tonight with Ty Lasher with GovGuy Consulting. I've shared a little bit in the past with council, but Ty is somebody who has been in local government for quite some time, served as the city administrator in Cheney, so small town experience, also served as the city manager in Bel Air, saw a lot of economic development activity, a lot of strategic things in Bel Air in his time there, retired about the same time as my mentor, and has gone into consulting. And so one of the things Ty's been involved in recently is assisting Douglas with some things similar to some of the things we're walking through as that community is working with new staff, a new city administrator. And so I will tell council, it's hard to fess up that you're at the end of what you know, but we are hitting that place for me in several areas of what I'm working within. And so I would like to seek some strategic assistance from Ty we presented kind of a broad scope. I'm going to get my notes here. But every administrator brings a different set of gifts and skills. I like policy, y'all know that. But as we've had different city administrators, many don't have the background and training of a trained city administrator. We're at a place where the community goals are pushing past some of the systems that we have in place here. And so I'm a first-time city administrator. I do have that background in training, but nobody arrives in the role fully formed. And so there are places in my skills where I'm still trying to grow and form those. And meanwhile, the community is asking for some serious investments from the community. We're talking about water, where the community in the past 12 months has approved 2.5% in sales taxes for the purpose of us advancing the community priorities. And that is just incredible. And it's a huge responsibility for us. And so we're in a place where the organization has to change to fulfill those goals. We are a tiny staff or little organization trying to do big things. And so some of the areas that are emerging where outside guidance is helpful. We talked about some of those with the audit. We talked about procedures that help to shore up our financial. And right now, as we're short staffed, we are missing critical pieces of our financial transparency and management systems. So in talking with Ty, we've kind of gone back and forth on scope. And right now you're looking at a scope that is fairly broad because we don't exactly know what all the needs are going to be, but they're emerging day by day. We struggled, Stetson and I struggled this month with close because the third pillar of that financial system is missing. And there are questions that neither of us know how to tackle within our systems to get to the place where we can close the July books. And so questions range from very, very technical to strategic, such as now that the community has approved funding for law enforcement, what does it actually look like to build that? And so looking at having some outside support to guide those conversations to be that third party. And the other thing is sometimes I need mentoring. That is one of the most valuable gifts. I've done several trainings in my time here, but just to have somebody to bounce things off of as I encounter, how do I navigate this kinds of situations? So what you're looking at, honestly, is a number that I know we can't do in the contract. If you multiply that 4,000 not to exceed monthly by 12 months of the contract potential term, we can't do that. And so while the contract allows that not to exceed, that is not what I'm asking for tonight. What I would like to see is where we maybe start with some higher levels of support. We're looking at cash reserves right now. We're looking at things that we plan not to spend. And so to look at some support for the next couple of months and then kind of drop it down to more of an on-call or as council priorities and projects come up, where we say, yes, we need that outside guidance to advance this priority. Once we get through some of that, just help me solve my way out of some of the corners I'm painted into right now. I would expect that the costs would drop. But the nice thing about that not to exceed, the way that Ty has structured it, is that if we get into a heavy lift, he's helping us. He's on our team. He's in here doing what he can to support. So some of that can involve the formal strategic plan process, looking at some of our infrastructure planning. Bel Air's certainly seen expansions in his time. And then again, the police department question and that consultation. So with that, the motion I'm bringing is to recommend approval, but I also know we've got Ty here this evening, and so we are glad to stand for any questions as well.
I've got a question for the city attorney. Although the administrator feels that she will not need to use the entire amount of a $48,000 contract, do we not have to put that in the budget as $48,000? Don't we have to put the whole contract amount in the budget? I mean, we
To
can't.
me, the clause is that you can terminate with notice of 10 days.
Correct.
It automatically terminates in a year. But by either party, you can terminate with 10 days notice. So I mean, to me, it's as needed language already.
I just want to make sure how it's got to fit in the budget because you got to show it somewhere. Because I think we're probably going to use the whole amount before we're done.
Okay.
Well, we've got.
I'm just saying maybe I didn't understand your question.
Okay.
Do you think you're going to use the whole amount and therefore should you show the whole amount in the budget? Then yes.
If we sign a contract, uniforms, even though we can cancel the contract, do we not need to show the potential liability of the contract in the budget.
That language did not, the uniform contract does not include a get out of jail in 10 days.
Well, I just picked something, okay?
I understand. I'm just saying I've not, usually these agreements don't have this clause that I typically see in there.
Okay.
And so therefore, I'm probably not equipped to answer this. But to me, it's a cancel in 10 days with a
Okay.
not to exceed 4,000 per month.
Sure.
So it's not even a not to exceed 48,000 for the year. It's not to exceed 4,000 per month. And with either side giving notice in 10 days.
Okay.
I'm all for if somebody needs help, them doing it, getting it as much as possible. I'm not saying, I don't know that this is something that, and I don't see your day to day. I don't know if this is best for the city as far as right now. I mean, we just talked about hiring 2 new people. When you hire those people, you're going to have to put your time and effort into bringing them up to speed, making sure they have everything taken care of, they have everything they need. And then you're sitting here wanting to hire these people to come in and help you, which I think is great, but at what point is it, okay, we need you to focus on this, hiring these people, getting them hired, and then you're like, but I need to go talk to these people too. I mean, you're the city administrator, we hired you for this job, and I think you're doing a fantastic job, but I don't want to see us hire 2 new people and then that kind of be put on the back burner while you're having consultations with Gov guy. While I'm not saying I don't think they can help, I think we may get lost in translation as far as making sure that the town is taken care of first, and that's how I see it. I don't know.
Somebody talked about me getting back, and I think maybe we all need to be there for this to ask questions too.
Okay.
I think I'd like to ask for a motion to table this one back.
So is that your motion, Chris?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table this till,
September 9th?
September 9th.
Got a second for that?
Second.
Second by Jenny, do I have a vote? 5 votes. Okay. Sorry, Ty, the worst of you. I think it's critical enough that everybody needs to be here to kind of hash out these things. All right. Anything else? Do you have your motion sheet for the executive session, man? You have one prepared?
Yes.
You
You didn't do
What didn't that?
item 9.
Security matters.
Other business and announcements.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I was told to go talk to other cities about fireworks.
Okay.
I went to 5 other cities. Nobody has any restrictions on Japanese or Chinese, whatever, lanterns. There are no restrictions anywhere on any of the 5 other towns I've contacted.
Anytime, anywhere, right? Anytime you can use Chinese lanterns?
No, no, it's supposed to be strictly for 4th of July.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the state ruling. Everybody went with the state rulings on the 5 towns that I talked to. And according to that, it's only supposed to be on the 4th of July.
Okay. Did not do public comment.
Yeah, I did. He opened it up. Nobody had anything to say.
Okay. Did he?
Yep.
Who?
Public comment? Yes, he did.
Yes, you did.
Where was I?
You weren't here.
No, I wasn't.
I think it's when you were gone, so.
It really was.
When I was gone? I was here before everybody else.
No, you were like on the road for that. You missed one.
Public comment. Public comment.
Sorry. I thought you were talking about when we first brought this up.
No, I meant public comment for today. I don't remember it. And I was like, where have I been? I've been here.
No.
Okay. Okay, I missed it then. Sorry.
So
That's fine.
what's your thought on it? Here.
Personally, I still think we should ban it. However, those other 5 towns don't have any restrictions. We should follow everybody else's footsteps.
Okay. Decide we should reconsider. Let's work on.
So you're recommending no action is needed further.
That is correct, sir. Thank you.
Copy that. You mentioned.
Thanks. Appreciate your help. Appreciate the work. All right. Now I'll go to executive session.
Okay.
For me.
I'll motion to enter the executive session. I move that the council recess into executive session for 20 minutes for discussions concerning security matters pursuant to the justification listed in KSA 75-4319B12. Included in this session will be the mayor, council, city attorney, and city administrator. The open meeting will resume in the Towanda City Council room at 9:19.
Second.
All in favor? My vote. You can write the best order you want me to.
Right.
What is it?
You have to hold this.
I know. I'll be right back.
Good job.